Welcome back to Film Files. In today's file, we will be uncovering a sword and sorcery film from 1982 titled The Beastmaster. Sit back, and let's dive in. A prince is to be born to King Zed, and the three witches see it in their little pool of water. Maax steps into the temple. He is an influential priest there. The witches then prophesize that he will be killed at the hand of the king's unborn son. Next thing you know, the king steps into the temple with his guards. He declares that Maax is banished from the land for practicing an evil religion and the sacrificing of little children. Maax has something to say and replies that the king's unborn son is the child to be sacrificed this time around. Maax is subsequently taken away by the guards. Meanwhile, he has secretly left, cutting the child to one of the witches. That night, she goes into the king's chamber and casts a spell on the royal couple. Then she magically transfers the unborn baby into a cow's womb. She takes the cow away to somewhere isolated and delivers the cow of the boy. It's late, and a passerby sees her brand the baby with a hot iron. He also sees that the baby is about to be stabbed. So he throws his weapon at the witch. She fights back with some sorcery, but he is able to kill her. Once again, he gets on the road towards home. He arrives at his village to some welcoming sounds and gestures from the other villagers. And he shows off the boy child he rescued. Next, Dar, as he is named, is a teenager now. His father is training him in the art of swordsmanship. Then, a bear attacks a man nearby, and Dar can speak to the beast telepathically. And so, the danger is averted. His father tells him to keep his abilities a secret at any cost. Dar is soon a full-grown man. He also has a pet dog. On this day, his father hands him a hoe to work the fields. They bid each other farewell. While Dar is in the fields, he takes time to play with the dog and tosses a stick to fetch. It starts barking ominously in the distance. And Dar is forced to pay attention. When the barking persists, Dar runs over and finds that his village is about to be overrun by a clan called June. Dar and the men with him rush down to help. By now, their village is under a full-on attack. The June pillage everything even as Dar fights in his own significant way. Maax also shows up to observe the goings-on. Dar is ultimately knocked out. And his dog has the sense to drag him to safety even though an arrow itself has struck it. The raid is completed, and later on, Dar wakes up, and it seems his vision is that of an eagle, suggesting he is a beastmaster of sorts. He sees his dog and acknowledges that saving him was its last brave action. Dar runs back to his village in dismay. The only thing left to do is burn the bodies. He picks up his father's sword and gets going in his quest to avenge his fellow clan folk. The eagle is not far off too. As he travels, he also trains. At some point, he meets two ferrets who steal away his loincloth. He chases them through the bushes and ends up in some quicksand. He is slowly sinking when he summons his beast's telepathic powers and directs the ferrets on how to save him. Afterward, he names them Kodo and Podo. The eagle, which he will name Sherak, soon joins them, and he can see through its eyes that some Jun clansman is attacking a certain panther. Dar goes on to rescue the big cat, and they become allies. He names her Rue. On their way, they come across a girl or two bathing in a stream. Dar signals to the ferrets to steal her cloth. Apparently, Dar wants to meet her and perhaps impress her with his beast control abilities. But she turns down his advances because she has been given up to the priest. She leaves, and Dar and his team follow her despite losing her tracks. This is when they stumble upon a hive of bird-like creatures who feed by pureeing their victims. But the eagle comes to Dar's aid. It turns out the creatures worship eagles. Dar soon finds a temple city with its main road lined with impaled bodies. There is no one around, and everyone is gathered at the backside of town listening to Maax ramble on as he sacrifices one or two of the town's children. With the help of his eagle, Dar saves a child from a fiery sacrifice. Maax notices too. That night, Dar returns the child to its parents and decides to seek out the Jun. He is on the road when two priests try to kill him. He has been marked to die as Maax, and his witches see in their little sorceress pool of water. However, his panther saves the day but ends up being trapped in a ditch. And just when it is about to be killed, Seth, who is a king's guard, and Tal, who is yet another son of King Zed, appear to save its day too. They all help it out of the ditch. They make camp for the night. Dar can see the whereabouts of his female interest through the eagle's eyes. So they prepare to rescue her by boat. Eventually, they decide they must also save King Zed imprisoned at the temple. It's no easy feat, but they work together, all of them, to find and rescue him. He has been rendered blind. Irrespective of this, he still rallies his supporters to regain his city from Maax. As he put it, Dar wants to help but is turned down by this same king for being a freak. Later on, Kiri, his female interest, consoles him. He asks her to leave with him, but she declines by saying it's her fate to remain. Separately, they are planning their mode of attack at the king's camp. But Maax and his witches have an inside track on them. Tal has a ring he picked up earlier on that enables the witches to see things as they are. Seth discovers it and tosses it in the fire, but it's too late now. The next day, Dar is frantically awakened by the news that King Zed, Seth, Kiri, and Tal have been captured by Maax for a sacrifice to the gods. Dar rushes down to the city on horseback. The priest sees Kiri and put her on the altar. Maax is about to stab her, but Dar gets there and has to fight his way to her. This buys him some time. Meanwhile, he has deployed his ferrets to chew off the ropes that bind Seth and Tal so they can join him. Ultimately, he is able to save Kiri, but King Zed is not so lucky. Dar, however, stabs Maax, but his last witch gives him an extra life. And Maax uses the lifeline to attempt stabbing Dar, but one of the ferrets sacrifices its life to protect Dar. So Maax ends up in the fire. Everyone's attention is turned now to the approaching Jun clan warriors. They decide they will hold their ground and fight. They all start to prepare their defenses against the Jun attack. Dar sends out his eagle to perhaps summon the bird-like creatures from earlier on to come to their aid, and so she flies off on this errand. That night, everyone waits with bated breath within the walls of their city as the Jun clan approaches. A lot of tar surrounds the city, and the plan is to lure the Jun into it and then set it ablaze. At first, it works, but then an arrow falls the torch carrier. Tal goes to finish the job off but is fired too. Eventually, Dar manages to start the fire skillfully, and it blows up. Still, some Jun clansmen escape and regroup as they outnumber and corner Dar and his little strike group. The leader of the Jun clan challenges Dar to a duel and is defeated. Still, the threat doesn't go away. So it would take the timely intervention of the bird people to save the day as Dar retreats inside the confines of the city gates to much jubilation. Tal's wounds must be attended to, and the arrow is pulled out. The next day Seth sees Dar off, and Dar insists he will not be taking the throne as King Zed's first son. Tal will have to do. So Dar leaves, and Kiri looks on. Seth and Tal say their farewells, and sooner or later, Kiri joins Dar as they kiss. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and hit that notification button to open more files like this.